So in the reality TV show Hardcore Pawn, there have been a lot of deals that went terribly wrong. Being based out of Detroit, the owners of American Jewelry and Loan have experienced everything from death threats to plastic roulette wheels to even forging pawn tickets. It's actually been some cases where people faked pregnant, scammed everybody in the building. Les Gold, the owner, his son and daughter, Ashley and Seth. It's just been all bad in Hardcore Pawn. And it's kind of crazy when family businesses are toxic and you have so many problems. Although it can be entertaining for television purposes, it's not very good for the family. So today, we're going to be discussing a few of those Hardcore Pawn deals that went awfully wrong. But before we get into the video, make sure to leave a like as it helps the channel out tremendously. And subscribe to the channel for future content just like this. For our first story of the day though, now we've seen Hardcore Pawn take some turns for the worse. We've seen a lot of yelling at Les, Seth, Ashley, Seth and Ashley having some disagreements, Les having disagreements with his kids. We've seen it all. But in this episode right here, this guy was so upset after being told that his pawn expired, he said that he would kill all three of them. After starting to shout at them, the pawn shop security stepped in and escorted the man out of the store. But the man was so upset that he kept yelling and cursing and eventually making a death threat. Since the security guards feared that the guy might have a gun or a different weapon stashed in the car, you gotta remember now, we are in Detroit and we are on 8 Mile. But they decided that it was best to intervene and retain him as the Golds and some other customers come out of the shop to watch the whole scene. Now the police was called and the guy went into Les' office to wait for the police to show up, eventually telling his side of the story. Les decided not to press charges and they both acted like it never happened. In the season 5 episode, Ashley bought a plastic roulette wheel for $30 after a gamble with a customer that could have resulted in a sale of $5 instead. When Seth found out about Ashley's roulette purchase, he berated her in front of the customer, and when she then interferes with her as she complained to Les about her brother, she left the store in tears to pour where she no longer wanted to be taped by the production's camera. This is just one example of siblings acting like small children in front of the customers, and it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, where everything being toxic in a family environment, and it may be fun for TV, but in reality, it's not good for the family. Now, if it wasn't already enough dealing with customers who appear to have forgotten or never even had their own receipts while working at a pawn shop, there seemed to be an entirely new problem in one of the episodes of Hardcore Pawn when one of the employees was presented with the counterfeit pawn ticket. The two women came into American Jewelry and Loan, handing over forged pawn tickets and trying to take out a ring. But the employee quickly realized that they were trying to scam the pawn shop. Now this easily could have been on a video about some of the biggest scams in Hardcore Pawn history, but they actually caught on to this one. As you can imagine, the woman eventually started yelling at the employee and then Les after a long enough wait for the owner, only to have to tell them the exact same thing. Now the two women were actually seen to be more upset about the fact that their plan didn't work rather than that they missed out on a $9,000 ring. Now in the season 7 episode Watch Your Back, Seth and Ashley felt like their father, Les Gold, the owner of the pawn shop, was making one bad deal after another. Now things got worse as Les was taken for a ride by a longtime customer who was a watch collector and was trying to sell a quite unique Breitling watch for a whopping $40,000. But the collector technically went back on his word. Instead of the $40,000 that they agreed upon, the collector sent an insane 130 cases full of watch bands to American Jewelry and Loan. About $40,000 watch bands to be exact. What followed in the next episode was Les and his desperate attempts to sell the watch bands at a discounted price of $2 to break even. Now Seth later on revealed on Facebook that he actually managed to do just that. But that's all we have for today's video on some of the deals that went awfully wrong in a Hardcore Pawn. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all in the future.